Good morning. Welcome to Tarrant County Master Gardeners Demonstration and Community Garden. It's one of our projects that we have in the Tarrant County. We're going to be looking today at the sun garden for perennials. We're looking at coneflowers again. And if this coneflower is a perennial, because next year this same coneflower will come back. It will drop seeds, and I may have 10 coneflowers over here, which will eventually become perennials. Now, if it just drops its seeds and replants, it is not a perennial, it is an annual. We have the elephant ears, which our master gardeners out here, our little talented crew, has used making designs, I think they went ahead and put some in pots and they made designs out of them. So we grew that for them. Another crying lily. We have them in white and pink out here. I'm sure you can get them in other colors. This is one of my favorites because it blooms now and it will bloom again. You cut it back, it blooms, cut it back, it blooms until usually October. And it is just absolutely the easiest plant in the world. Never have had a bug on it. Again, more of the sage, Silverado sage. You'll see it bloom. Once it has a good rain, you get the little purple flowers on it. And some days it will cover itself with the purple flowers. Back behind it is a rutabaga, and it's one of our bigger ones. It gets, as you can see, it gets about 3 feet tall, and in about 2 weeks it should start blooming with yellow flowers and will bloom again. Cut it back, start it up, cut it back, start it up, and it will go and go. Back behind it is another sage, and then over in the corner over here is our forsythia sage. It looks green now, but let it come September into October and November, it'll shoot off a yellow stalk about this high. That gives you that really good look for late fall. More irises. I think we have about 12 different kinds of irises. We have all kinds, all colors. Again, you want to dig those up? Irises is one of the few plants you can dig up any time of the year. I mean, most plants you have to do fall or summer. Irises, they seem to be pretty hard. This is an interesting plant. This is called a bog plant. And if you live in a place where there's a lot of water, this plant will take over. If you're only on it every week, this is what it looks like. And it's one of the only true blue colors we have. You have very few blue plants. Another sage. You can see this one's got a little more blooms to it. Our Greg's Mistflower again. And Nancy, I know what this is. Sometimes my brain just won't work. But this is another fall blooming plant. Now this is not a perennial, it's an annual, and it seeded itself in our garden. We sat there one day and we saw it coming up and we thought, well, okay, it's in a good spot. It can stay there because it's not bothering anybody. We will let it go. The butterflies are just starting, but you can see where they are. They're on the Greg's Mistflower, and they will come and come. We have a couple of plants buried in here that are strictly for the caterpillars. They're pretty interesting. On the side over there, Gregi. That is a plant that has been around, oh my gosh, I don't know, probably since we had Texas. And it blooms and blooms. I don't cut that back until mid-March. And then you cut it back a half to 1/3, and it comes back just as strong. You're looking here, it looks really bare. This is where our daffodils were. We had 4, 5, 6 different daffodils, but they're not there. The daffodils bloom in February into March. By June, they're looking kind of weepy. You do not take the daffodils down when they finish blooming. They need their green up so they can feed back to the bulbs to make them stronger for next year. So when they're finished and they're starting to fall over and they're looking brown, we go in and cut them all down, knowing they'll come back next year. More daylilies, more sages. Here's a plant. This is the Dutchman's pipe. This is strictly for our caterpillars. And if you'll see, that's the flower on it, which is a pretty interesting little flower. The plant smells absolutely awful. This flower will come up. When it finishes, it'll go into a little watermelon shape about this big. When that finishes, it turns into a basket and leaves you a whole basket full of seeds. It's real easy to get, and they can be propagated. And it just wanders all over. And I love the flower on it. I got this, I had to sit through a whole day's class in Dallas to get one of these because you couldn't find them in Fort Worth 25 years ago. Brought it home and thought, oh, how exciting, show my grandkids tomorrow. The next day we got up and there was not a leaf left. The caterpillars had gotten to it. And overnight, all down. But it came back. And they will eat it. In fact, we get caterpillars about this big, and then we even had one go in my house. And she made her own little thing in my house and came out. Along here is pretty much the same. As you can see, when I told you that we made it so we could get in, we can get into any spot here without too much trouble. And take out the plants, remove them, and as we get new plants, I will take out some of these. We can give them to our garden center here, and the gals over there will get them propagated, and when they do a sale, we've got great plants because you know where they came from.
I want to buy some perennial for my house. What do you recommend for the people who want to start growing perennials?
It depends. Again, what kind of soil do you have? What kind of shade and sun do you have? You want to put some of these only in full sun. The best thing to do, you have two choices. You can go around your neighborhood and look and see what's blooming, take pictures of it, and then you know what to look for. You can go on the Texas A&M website, TAMU, and they will tell you recommended plants. They don't put all the recommended plants, but they have a tremendous amount of them. Talk to your gardening friends, find out what they use, what they have, and look. You know, you may see something, they may tell you, oh, this, and you go and you say, yeah, that's nice, but I don't like it for my yard. I don't like real rangy plants, so I don't grow those in my yard. Other people love them. Gulf Coast penstemon, the name came. This is a Gulf Coast penstemon, and it's a Texas native. And it will, again, most of these plants will grow. Back behind it is the hummingbird bush. And it's the red, and you will get lots of hummingbirds, lots of bees. I am surprised. Usually this area is filled with bees. Today it's not. If you want to look for bees, usually the purple plants are your best. For some reason they really go to purple. They will take into some of the red ones. They will get on these white ones here. But purple is their main attraction. They will really go to almost anything that's purple. Even our Greg-eye, you'll see them on there. You won't see them usually on the Greg's Mist flower, but you will see butterflies all over the place. We have more daisies getting ready to come up. The Shastas are beginning. There's one set of daisies goes down, another variety starts to come up. Here is the Mexican marigold. This is another fall aster. This is a plant, has this wonderful, wonderful minty flavor. You can use it in cooking, use it in vinegars, and again, it blooms in the fall. You wait until September, October, covered with yellow blooms, and you know you've got about, normally they tell you have 6 weeks left before the first freeze once that blooms. And this is skullcap. You can see it's one of the plants, if you want something low into the ground to use along the front of your border, you can use skullcap. You can use the Mexican marigold. It gets a little bit bigger, but not too big. But this would be one of your better plants for it. The lamb's ear. People say, oh yeah, you got to cut this off. You don't need to cut this off. It does no harm, and it looks pretty. The plant itself, I like it. It's very, very soft. When I was doing some Texas history stuff, we found that this was way back even when the first people came here, and when they didn't have bandages, they used this as a bandage. It was so soft and easy, they could use it for a bandage. This is a Japanese rose. This has only come into the trade in the last few years that you can find it easy. When I first saw one, it was over at the garden in Dallas. Loved it. Couldn't find one in town. Found a master gardener that said, "Oh, I have a bunch of those." I said, "Really?" And she said, "I'll swap you." I said, "What do you need?" She said, "Do you have any white irises?" I said, "Oh my God, I'll give you a dozen white irises for one of these." So this is about 7 or 8 years. In the spring, the first part of the spring, this is covered with these little bitty double blooms. There's no thorns, no anything. We trimmed all the dead ones back, and it's starting its second bloom. Now it will bloom in early spring under a oak tree, because if the oak hasn't come up yet. But once the oak is leafed out, you won't get much blooms on this. This really likes a full sun. You can do this one. This is another one. You can do cuttings. The best thing to do is to get the new growth. We have these plants that pop up. I can pull up 6 right here, and they'll have a runner about this long. You pull it up, you go so far with the runner and clip it. You've got a new plant to put in your garden. This, you can take up the plant. The propagating it easiest way would be by the plant, not by seed, because it really doesn't have it. The same way with those. You need to plant the plant, not the seed. This is Vitex. This is a little tree. Not my choice. A girl I was working with really wanted to put a Vitex in. She said, "Joanne, only get 8 to 10 feet tall." So we have cut this back. We tried to bush it. We tried to tree it. But it tries to do whatever it wants. And it also leaves you, if you like the tree, it will leave you little ones. We have a baby coming up right here. Now see, they can take this up, put it in the garden, and by fall, they'll have a nice plant to sell in our plant center. Engelmann daisies again. We have more phlox. I love phlox, so I put them everywhere. And at the back, there's another plant that was given to me and I grew in a pot at home. Did not know what it was until it bloomed. It's a bee balm, or a monarda. And again, look it back, let it go down. More of these. The daisies. As one of our daisies goes down, the other daisy starts appearing. In the center, you have a rudbeckia, which will start blooming in the next few weeks and will bloom off and on with us trimming it back until fall. That's another one. I would take a piece of it out the bottom. The daisies, all you have to wait for is for this. The leaves to fall off. This will turn very brown, and when you rub your hand over it, they'll come loose. That'll be seeds. Easiest thing in the world to plant. At the front, this is a brown iris. We had it planted there, and we discovered that this iris only gets this big. And when it does bloom, it blooms right here. So it has to be in the front so that you can see it. Otherwise, you would never be able to see it. This is another one of our bridges. And with that, we finish this garden. Thank you.